It's also when the gravity takes effect. If they're in lunar orbit going around in the lunar module, they're doing so many revolutions going around the moon until the point when they're coming in for the final pass to come in. At some point, that lunar gravity is going to kick in and start pulling more weight on them. They're standing up there, they're floating around originally, and then they're coming down into a standing position when they're finally settling down on the moon.
Bob, how much do these windows weigh?
I don't know, a couple ounces?
Bob?
The real ones?
Yeah.
500-600 pounds at least.
Really? Do we need them?
Yeah, Tom. I think the astronauts might want to see where they're going.
Do they need windows this big? No. Of course they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to see from their seats. What?
What if they don't need seats?
They have to have seats, John.
Why? They can fly standing up
Yes, but they have to land.
in 1/6 gravity. And legs are great shock absorbers. If they were standing, they'd be a lot closer to the window, which would increase their field of view, which would mean we wouldn't need such big windows in the first place. What do you think?
Well, I think it's interesting, but I don't really see it. Sorry. Good try, though.
Hey, let's help them see it.
What the heck is that?
What we did instead of sleep.
Well, John, I can certainly see it now.
Intrepid orbited the moon in an east to west direction with a low point or perilune 500 kilometers east of the landing site at an altitude of 50,000 feet. That's about 16 kilometers. This was the point for powered descent initiation, or PDI, when the main engine would be ignited. At this moment, the burn was being controlled by Program 63 in the computer. P63 was one of 3 programs that handled the descent. This was the braking phase, and it would last around 9 minutes, during which the crew couldn't see the ground. P64 handled the approach phase and would rotate the spacecraft forward so the crew could see where it was taking them. A clever system on board would allow the commander to redesignate the landing target. Once the lunar module had descended to an altitude of about 500 feet, the computer would move to P66 to bring Conrad into the control loop, allowing him to guide the spacecraft helicopter-like to a smooth patch for touchdown.
42 feet, coming down to 3. Start the clock. 40, coming down at 2. Looking good. 32. 30 feet down at 2. Pete's got plenty of gas, babe. Hang in there. 18 feet, coming down at 2. He's got it made. Come on in there, 24 feet. Contact light. Shit. Pull! Yeah, pull! Okay, engine arm off. Okay, recycle the valves. You got your descent engine commando right off? Yep. Okay, all right. I set the main shut-off valve. Okay. Good landing, Pete. Man, outstanding. That was incredible. Okay. Yeah! Outstanding! Houston, we're in hot shape. We're in real good shape. You guys did outstanding targeting. I'll tell you, that thing was right down the middle. Beautiful. I just want to say it was a real pleasure riding with the #1 aviator. Way to go, Pete. Look at it out there. Isn't it beautiful? Look at that. Man, that's beautiful. That is something else. That is amazing. Unbelievable. Oh, my God. Hey, you want to ask him? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Houston Intrepid. Where are we?
It's also when the gravity takes effect. If they're in lunar orbit going around in the lunar module, they're doing so many revolutions going around the moon until the point when they're coming in for the final pass to come in. At some point, that lunar gravity is going to kick in and start pulling more weight on them. They're standing up there, they're floating around originally, and then they're coming down into a standing position when they're finally settling down on the moon. And it makes you wonder about the fact that their body weight is just shifting quite a lot of the time, I'd imagine. And it makes you wonder about the fact that their body weight is just shifting quite a lot of the time, I'd imagine. I think this is where we go back to Xavier Pascal's work on his videos. He explored that kind of thing where the lunar module's weight was shifting all the time as the fuel was being ejected out to kind of stabilize it. Plus that you got the body weight of the astronauts in a standing position as it's shifting forward. They're not in any kind of center of gravity kind of position to kind of help keep it balanced.
Yeah, that's right. If they fly, if they sort of move around too much, they could actually cause instability in the craft's flight.
Yeah. If one pilot was behind the other rather than side by side, because it's kind of front forward heavy, I would have thought.
Yeah. It's got one rocket which is sending them up. The rocket on the ascent stage didn't have a gimbal, so they couldn't change it. They used the external thrusters to do that. Could they do it fast enough? Was the computer fast enough to do it? So come on, Netflix. How about doing a series on Apollo?
We'll be your stars. We'll come on and
We
we'll
could
be
do
your
it.
presenters.
Robert would do a very good job putting the film together because he knows how to do it, more than NASA does.
They would never even talk to us. Do you think Neil deGrasse Tyson would talk to us? Oh, come
course
on.
No.
He would talk to us if we gave him $25,000 as a retainer like a lawyer.
Where do you think all of those space series, the documentary series on space that Neil deGrasse Tyson hosted, those were all produced with NASA movie production studios. All those special effects, everything else that they put into his thing on space when he's traveling around and he's talking about different stuff, all of those images that were available there were all done from NASA movie production studios. All those special effects, everything else that they put into his thing on space when he's traveling around and he's talking about different stuff, all of those images that were available there were all done from NASA movie production studios. And they're creating the best simulations they can. They're in association with IMAX and everybody else to put those together. So he knows. He knows where the fakery is coming from. He's right there in the studio with them when they're doing it.
Listen, you can't tell me that Destin and Thunderfoot don't know something's up. I don't think they will admit it. But let's face it, they're sitting there looking at all these rockets and, oh, well, Destin says it's going to take 10 to 15, and then Thunderfoot comes out and says, oh, it's going to take 30. And then they're looking at this tiny little LEM sitting in a container, and yet they don't put the two together. It's right there, guys. It's almost like you just have to give them one little shove to the back before they'll see it.
Well, Thunderfoot has always shown willful ignorance. I mean, I've watched his videos on other subjects, and the guy is like impenetrable. He really is.
And the trouble is, anybody who criticises the holy god of NASA and their wonderful achievements is going to get cancelled, not going to be permitted to discuss it in polite society. So we have to do it in impolite society. Hey guys.